It works! My 3D printer is one of the most important tools in my workshop. I print custom GoPro mounts to get weird angles. I print cable clamps, spacers, you name it. And it seems like a lot of you guys are doing the same thing, because when I search for mountain bike STL files, those are made for 3D printers, I find free downloads all over the place created by users for tools, bike products. And so I scoured the internet, found a whole bunch of them, and printed them out right here in my workshop to show you. I know what you're thinking. Not again. Last time we printed out stuff like this stem that I designed. Of course, it all broke. You make a plastic disc brake rotor. What do you expect? A lot of this stuff I expect to perform pretty well because I had a lot to choose from. So I'm gonna start with this wheel bracket. Now the way this works is kind of like one of those plug mounts. It's flexible. You screw it into the wall and then you can put the bike's tire in it and it'll grab it. This one that I printed out was way too big for any of my tires. Even a 3.0, it didn't really clamp down on. And so I printed it out in a bunch of different sizes here, and they seem really sturdy. I mean, these things do not want to break. Let's see if it breaks when we try and hold the bike with it. Seems to work. You can put these in a variety of places. They have them up on walls, so you can kind of set the bike vertically. I would be concerned if it was in a shed where it can get down to like -20 degrees or something. Then it might get brittle. Same as if it's in a shed that gets 400 degrees. Maybe you're on the surface of Venus or something like that. But in a garage like this one, this works very well and I don't expect it to break. So good job. Next up, I must admit, I was kind of skeptical when I saw this fork mount on Thingiverse, but I printed one out and we're gonna test it. So what is this and what is it for? Well, we actually have several of them in Alexander's van for storing bikes under his bed. And they were quite expensive if I remember correctly. You can see the through axle fits inside of this, and then you mount the fork right here. So, fitment is really good, seam is strong, but we're gonna test it a little bit more. The reason people use these is to store their bikes in a low profile manner. So people use these on roof racks, they use them on the tonneau covers of pickup trucks. Let's see how strong it is right here, because there's really no risk. I have it attached to this piece of wood. Yeah, that was pretty violent. All right, so it cracked. I was messing around with this a lot before I really moved the bike, and it held up pretty well. This is a very well-designed 3D printed part, and those 3D models can be adapted to CNC machines and things like that as well. We only did this test with my print settings with my filament, and so this could probably be made stronger. With that said, I wouldn't want to use a plastic fork mount for any type of mission critical application, like a roof rack, for example. And so to mount your bike to a wall in the garage or make a benchtop repair stand, I think this is fine, but if your bike's livelihood depends on it, I wouldn't want a plastic fork mount. Next up, we have this little guy right here. Can you guess what this does? It's a handlebar alignment gauge. I'm gonna show you how it works in a second. I actually have like a legit handlebar alignment gauge too. You mount it to the handlebars and then you line this up to the stanchions of the fork to see whether the bars are aligned properly. This one is a little bit more rudimentary. You stick it on the bars, you look down this thing and you see whether the center of your tire is in view. Let's see how it works. I was skeptical that this would be any better than eyeballing it, but honestly, it works pretty well. If you put it here, really sight down it, down the barrel, and get the tip of your tire, you're not gonna get it any straighter. I mean, this is perfectly straight. I don't know if I'm gonna use this instead of just eyeballing it. Eyeballing it is just so easy and convenient, but very smart design. This is clever and it works. Next up, this is a Tubo Lido. It's one of the most compact, lightweight inner tubes you can buy. They actually make a smaller one. It's the Tubo Lido S Tubo. I found a little case for the S Tubo that somebody designed. To put this in there, you gotta roll it up super tight. And then you can see there's this little slot over here. You slide it in there, and then the cap slides down over it. This is really compact. I could see how it would actually protect the inner tube, and you can see how this designer went through the trouble of making a holder for valve cores, which is pretty cool. I can't get it to fit in there all the way where this totally closes up, but could just be me. I think it's a pretty good design. And so I made one to fit a normal size Tubo Lido because I couldn't find one. And I made mine able to mount on my Sage. That was a totally custom bike, so I had them put a custom mount on the top tube for me to make things for. And so I have this little M6 hole and recess to screw it in. I'm proud of myself. This is super secure. Not ugly at all. Probably better to print this out in black or something like that, but I could see how this would keep the Tubo Lido in place, keep it protected. Yeah, not ideal, but just an experiment. I think it works pretty well. This would probably be better for kind of throwing in your backpack and just keeping it protected. Next up, we have some tools for fork service. These ones are made out of PETG filament, and I don't see any reason why they wouldn't hold up. Now you can see all the details are here. This one's labeled 30mm and has this little indentation over here so that it can fit over the wiper seal. So I'm gonna demonstrate this seal driver on a Suntour fork for several reasons. One, no oil bath, so no mess. Two, I don't own a 30mm seal driver. I usually push these in by hand, one of the few forks you can. And three, I get to demonstrate another 3D printed tool. This is made for the caps on the top of Suntour forks. Normally, you have to purchase this tool from Suntour, but you can print it out for just a few cents at home, and you can turn these caps without damaging them at all. These wiper seals cost next to nothing. So you rip them out of the fork, you put new ones in, and it runs like new. On a Suntour fork, you can kind of push them in by hand, although it's difficult. On a more expensive fork, you really need seal drivers. So this is a good demonstration. We're gonna put it over here, line it up, and then place our seal driver over it and hit it with a hammer. And now our seal is installed quite nicely. So being that I did not previously own a 30mm seal driver, this is a pretty nice addition to my tool collection. It's easier than doing it by hand, and so very nice design. I smacked on it with a hammer pretty good. No signs of cracking or anything. I wouldn't expect it to. It's a big solid piece of plastic. It's PETG, so it's a little bit pliable. And as for our 3D printed Suntour spanner, works really nice. I don't have any complaints. This is definitely gonna sit around, even though I have like 5 or 6 of them already. So while we're talking about fork service, sometimes you gotta drive a star nut or cut your steer tube down. I've got this guy right over here. It's a saw guide that Park Tool makes, and you put it in your vise and you can hold the steer tube in place and secures your fork quite nicely. This 3D printed part actually does the same. You can see there's a gap here, it's flexible, and it looks like it would do a really good job of not scratching up the fork. Let's give it a try. Looks good. Let's say I were installing a star nut. All right, there's actually enough space there. Can I smack it real good? It seems to work really well. I really crunched down on it. When you're 3D printing things, there's something called infill. So this looks like a big solid object. It's not plastic all the way through. It prints these little patterns on the inside to sort of fill in the space more economically. On this one, I used a lot of infill because I knew we'd be compressing a lot, and that seems to have served us well. Again, a lot of these are really well designed, but if you don't do your due diligence in terms of materials and print settings, you're gonna get something that's not very functional. But in this case, worked out fine. I'm actually gonna keep this around because for setting star nuts, I actually like it better than any other method I have. This next one I thought was interesting. This was listed as a helmet hook, Looks like it'd be a pretty good hook for just about anything. It's nice and rounded, it's big and thick, so you can hook it onto the back of your helmet. I wanted another hook over there, so let's go screw it into the stairs. Pretty solid, works for helmets, works for backpacks and helmets. I'd say that one's a win. Okay, this next one is pretty involved, and so I saved it for last. It's a dropper post lever. Now, if you've ever bought a dropper post lever, you know that sometimes it's like $60 or more. That's like a third the cost of a 3D printer. And so this one, you can print out for like 15 cents if you have all the other little hardware bits the creator requires, and I do, of course. So you need to print out 4 components for this dropper post lever, and then you need some hardware, 608 bearing, which I had, various screws, M5, M4, I had those in my screw kit, of course. And then a couple of other parts, 1 wire clamp thingy from a Shimano rear derailleur, 1 wire tensioner from a Shimano shifter. Yeah, of course I have all that stuff right in the miscellaneous drawer in my parts bin. So he included a very detailed diagram of how to put this together. I'm gonna mostly follow it and take a few liberties. We have the body right here of the dropper post remote. That is where our Shimano wire tensioner thingy should screw in. Rough, but I think a couple of in and outs and it should loosen up a little bit. So that's on the end, not bad. We have our 608 bearing, that goes into the lever over here. Fits rather nicely. It's tight, but not tight enough where it doesn't come out, and so we're gonna have to use some washers and things. This clamp goes on here, and I actually have a pin I can use for that. Okay. There's our handlebar cable clamp. Okay, last thing we have is this thumb pad. Okay, so we've got it hooked up and it works. It seems to work really well. It feels good. The little barrel adjuster for cable tension works. I didn't even follow his instructions. He had very good instructions there. I printed it on different material. I improvised with my parts here. What a time we live in. This was a spool of filament a couple of days ago, and now I have a working dropper post lever. I think this really could be made trail-worthy with the right print settings and materials. Whoever made this is a really good engineer, and you made my day. This free 3D printed stuff that I downloaded is better than a lot of the stuff that costs money. All of this was useful and most of it held up and worked really well. Some 3D printers are under $200 now, and so I'm gonna leave links to all this stuff below if you want to experiment with it. This was a ton of fun for me. I actually have a lot of stuff here that I'm gonna start using. If you enjoyed this video, you could have had it 2 weeks early on our Substack page, as well as articles written by some of the most interesting voices in mountain biking. Even if you sign up on our free tier, we put out some freebies now and again. I hope you found this interesting, and I hope you learned something, and if you didn't, I hope you at least found this entertaining. Thanks for riding with me today, and I'll see you next time.